If scary movies give you dread, keep you up late night in bed, here's a podcast that will help you ease your mind. We'll explain the plot real nicely, then we'll talk about what's frightening so you never have to have a spooky time. It's Ruined.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ruin. I'm Hallie.
And I'm Allison.
And we have very exciting news. We saw each other in person recently.
Yes.
I made the trip to New York. It was really great.
It was thrilling to see each other in person. I'm sure you guys can or cannot tell. We've mentioned it. We live on opposite coasts and have been separated not only by our residences, but also the pandemic. And it was very exciting to get to be together again.
Yeah, the last time we saw each other was in February 2020.
You were staying at my apartment with me.
Yes, thank you, on your little couch.
Your little couch.
It was just so nice. I mean, it's just nice in general to be back in New York and things are opening up and see everybody. But it was a true meeting of the minds. We, of course, drank too many frozen margaritas.
A lot of
And
frozen
just
margs.
talked shit. Talked trash.
It was boyfriend of the pod was there, Dave. So we got to have some nice outside drinks. We saw Jenna Lyons on the street.
Oh, yeah, that's right. A celebrity sighting.
That's a celebrity for Dave.
I was going to say,
And
Dave is the one person. I feel like Dave and Allison are like the people who would watch Jenna Lyons' reality show.
You know, I haven't seen it, but only because I'm in a longstanding issue with HBO Max not having an app for my TV, and I don't have a Roku or an Apple TV, and it's the only streaming service that does not make an LG TV app. And I'm like, well, then I'm just never going to watch HBO Max because I'm not going to watch TV on my computer like a 25-year-old.
I mean, but when eventually they do, you will enjoy it.
I will
it's
watch
a competition. So basically, it's like who will hang out with Jenna Lyons. Like it's not even.
Honestly, that's a cutthroat, difficult to win kind of competition.
You're absolutely right.
I could see myself dropping out very early.
So I think we saw each other. We feel renewed. We feel refreshed.
Yes.
We feel ready to take on the world.
Hallie, did you have any horror moments in New York? Any New York horrors?
You know, I definitely did. I had the biggest New York horror, which I had forgotten living in LA. I mean, we were home all last year, but then also we have a car. So it's easy to jump in a car and go home or go to different places. New York, you're on foot and you're carrying a bag. You're like a little camel walking around. And we were going to brunch at Balthazar in Soho. It was because Dave had never been. It was really, nice. It's like a place you take your mom when she's in town,
Yeah, it's like a landmark, but also there's good food, but it's sceney and fun.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're walking there, and I just had, I believe, a cold brew and then another coffee because I'm insane. And
that's my speed.
I think I had 2 cold brews. So as we're waiting, and we're approaching Balthazar, but there's a big line even to tell them we got a reservation. And I have the New York panic moment where I was like, "Am I going to poop my pants before we get into this place?" No. And I had forgotten that in New York, you might suddenly find yourself not with no bathroom in sight. And we were walking past a Starbucks. I was like, maybe I can run in Starbucks. Literally, there's a line for the bathroom out to the door down the block. A Starbucks employee had to come back and said, if you're just here to use the bathroom, stand against the wall. Everyone in Soho had to go to the bathroom. God bless those Starbucks people for essentially just offering public toilets now.
Doing God's work.
So I definitely had the shiver of terror of, am I going to make it? Luckily, I did. It was totally fine. But I've already gotten so soft. I went to LA and I'm so used to being able to just poop whatever I want to. And that was the first time, you need to make a strategy and you need to figure out how much time you have. What you're wearing white pants.
Are you ever afraid of being in traffic and being in your car and being like, there is not a solution here. I'm trapped on the 10 and...
I guess it's possible it hasn't happened
I've had that fear in LA.
Yes. I guess in my mind, well, at least if I do, I'm alone. If I poop my pants in my own car, I'll be unhappy, but I'll just go home and change my pants.
But nobody has to know.
No one has to know. In New York, if you shit your pants in Balthazar,
it's a public experience.
Everybody's going to know.
Everybody's going to know.
Everybody who's anybody will know.
Yes, everybody will be talking about it. I will say there was another horror moment that we experienced, not quite together, but when you were in New York, which was we were meeting up to go to a bar, and I was like, here's a couple of options for bars.
Oh, yes.
I, of course, forget what bars are even open in areas that aren't exactly where I live. And I suggested a bar, which I'm not going to name because it's a bar I actually quite like when it's not a crisis. So I want to contain the integrity of the bar. But we went to this bar, and Hallie and Dave beat me there, and you went to the bathroom, and it was already very crowded in a way that was like not ideal. Like not ideal for hanging out, not ideal for like the emerging from COVID.
Exactly.
But you went to the bathroom, and what happened in the bathroom?
Well, there was no hand soap. Okay. And then we went to the bartender, we're like, is there hand soap? And she reacted as if we said, do you have a gun? Can I borrow a gun and just shoot it wildly into the ceiling? She was like, oh, we don't have hand soap. It wasn't even 5 p.m. I want to say it was like 4 p.m.
No,
or something.
it was still full daylight. It was like post brunch.
And it was a packed bar. They're like, we don't have hand soap.
Packed.
And then Dave said, well, do you have hand sanitizer? Because again, we just had a year where we were dealing with the pandemic.
All
and
we
they
did was
they
sanitize.
I don't think so. It's like, so you are opening your bar and you don't have hand soap or hand sanitizer. It's not even 5 p.m. You're going to have dozens of people coming in here. Everyone here is going to get E. coli.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Giardia or
COVID
whatever.
is the least of their worries.
And so Dave, because he is a man, I was someone, I'm like, well, I'll just wipe my hands in my pants, like
Yeah.
like I live in a barn. But Dave rightly was like, well, let's try another bar that has hand soap. And we did.
And we did. And we went to the Vaughn, which is a wonderful place on Bleecker and Bowery in New York. If you live in New York, please go support them. They are the best. And we had many lovely outdoor frozen margaritas and beers. And Dave had some rosé.
And then, God, I don't even know when we'll see each other in real life again, but it was really lovely.
I'll come out to LA. It'll be
great.
We'll do it now that we're all traveling again.
Oh, I forgot. This podcast is about horror movies. And every week we ruin a horror movie for you. So if you can get through that, we're going to get down to business.
Yes. We have done many themed months, and it's been very fun. July, I believe, is the month that we are in. And we don't have a theme because, like, there are so many movie requests and so many movies that we want to get through that don't necessarily always fall into the theme that we're doing, nature or classics or whatever. And so, like, I think we wanted to spend this month getting through some, like, oft-requested movies that we're just like, we got to get these. We got to do these. And that's what we're doing this week. I would say that this is one that has come up. I don't know if it's our most requested, but
it's definitely up there.
I feel like it comes up quite a bit. It was recommended by both Jake S. and Tony H. via email, and I'm sure like many others have been like, when are you doing this movie? But we are doing Cabin in the Woods.
A personal favorite of mine. It is 2011. Is directed by Drew Goddard, and it's written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard. I only bring that up because Joss Whedon has been, I believe, canceled or at least fallen out of favor. And there are some moments in this that I feel like have just not aged well in a particularly Joss Whedon way, if you follow his work. If not, these probably won't stand out to you. But there are a couple moments where I'm like, all right, Joss, you got your last little moments, and now, we get to move on. This is also the first movie I saw that with Chris Hemsworth in it. So I was very excited to be introduced to him.
Didn't know he was in it, and into this.
Absolutely. So before we ruin a movie, we like to have Allison watch the trailer. And what are your thoughts from the Cabin in the Woods trailer?
So this movie comes up, I would say, very often. When I tell people about the podcast, they're like, have you done Cabin in the Woods? Have you seen it? Have you talked about it? Mm-hmm. And I just feel like there's so many movies where I know, I knew a little bit about Hereditary, and I know a little bit about, some of the classic movies that we've talked about. I knew a little bit about The Ring, but like, this is a movie where I'm like, it comes up all the time, and I genuinely didn't know anything about it.
Great.
The trailer is not what I was expecting.
Oh, okay.
It's really, also, it's like, I guess it's more recent than I thought it was. I thought it was like from like 25 years ago.
Yes, I love that. You were like, it's not from like 1990. I was like, that is wild that you thought it was an old movie.
I thought this was an old movie. I think just because it's been requested so much, I assume it's a classic and not a modern classic.
Yes. Well, what about the trailer? Did you find surprising? Like, which elements?
Chris Hemsworth was pretty high on the list. I didn't realize that it was like a hunk movie, and I am into a hunk movie.
Yes.
Also, like, that it seems like there's like more going on with the cabin than I was expecting.
That is the way I would describe this film. There's a lot more going on with the cabin than you think.
There's so much more going on with the cabin than I was expecting. So I was ready for kind of like, we meet a gas station attendant, of course. They're in the middle of the woods. Shit starts happening. But then all of a sudden there's like levels and stuff going on that it's just not what I was picturing at all.
there are levels to this thing. We also like to take a baseline scary of the film, and I don't want to give away too much too early on.
Okay.
So, how scary, Allison, do you find the concept of archetypes, which in Jungian psychology is defined as a collectively inherited idea, pattern of thought, image, etc., that is universally present in individual psyches?
I mean, as an English major and a film minor, I love archetypes. Mm-hmm. I am familiar with the many popular ones that show up in the storytelling that our civilization has done. So I like them as a thing, and I'm terrified of how they will be used as a horror trope.
And do you believe in sort of this idea that there are these archetypes or ideas that exist behind or beyond our conscious learning of them? Like, do you think we inherit those kinds of things from some, original, example of things, like inheriting them, or no?
Maybe.
Good answer.
Maybe. I feel like there are things that are not learned that we do that are consistent, like across time and people, right? Mm-hmm. Like I feel like so. That's like I think that there are types of people, there are types of stories, there are like that is not necessarily people reacting and repeating things, but more something that is ingrained and part of our psychology that is possibly genetically passed down. So like I could see that and like the way our society functions, like kind of creates space for different personalities and things. So I don't know. Again, maybe, I guess is my answer.
Yeah, I guess I think like when I think about that, I think about like I need to do more research about this, but like there's a lot like, I believe in evolution. I believe that we evolved our consciousness. So like there must have been like, no. I mean, yeah.
You come out, you're like, I am a flat earth Christian believer. Like,
I'm a Christian illiterate. Shout out to 30 Rock. I believe the only people who survived are the people on the boat during the flood. So, well, I think because of that evolution, there was probably a long stretch of time where our brains were evolving consciousness that must have been just batshit insane, where it's like our brains are trying to wrap our minds around like the natural world as it exists and like death and birth and stuff. And that's where a lot of like, religious archetypes emerge from. They're repeating like if you die, you get to come back, or like you're like God that has children and then the children kill them or whatever. Like those are things that happen. But I just think like that period of, I don't know how long it would have taken because we don't know enough about consciousness yet. Right. But like the human brain, it's like we weren't monkeys anymore, but we weren't where we're at, where the brain is just like,
it's like
how
wrinkling.
Do I survive? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
like what's all the empty stuff that they say like you don't use like a large percentage of your brain or whatever? What's in there? What's being kept around
what
in
is
there?
In there? We don't know.
We don't know, and the movie's not going to answer that because it's not about that. But I'm going to ask you what you think it's about when I ask you, Allison, to please guess the twist.
Guess the twist.
I mean, the trailer for this left me with more questions than answers. So I think it's something about basements. Like I know they go down some levels. That's all I can figure out. I want to be clear.
I asked you to guess the twist, and you said the word basements. Okay, great.
I've had 2 glasses of wine while we've been recording, so I feel like I am no longer capable of guessing the formulaic twists of these movies. I'm now beyond that.
You're not wrong. It's just
it's not a twist. It's just a facet of the plot, and I understand that. But
well, there's a lot going on in this movie, so we better get to it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot.
And please enjoy as we ruin for you the movie The Cabin in the Woods. We open on a credit sequence that is showing us images of human sacrifice in sort of like blood and blood red, sort of like scrolls and manuscripts. And then we cut immediately to 2 office drones named Sitterson and Hadley, the latter of who was played by Bradley Whitford. And he's complaining about his wife.
He's terrifying.
Well, he's just the perfect office drone. You know what I mean? Like the perfect, He
plays, I watched The Handmaid's Tale for the torture porn of being a woman, I guess. And he's so chilling in it for like the kind of like his dryness and his like, it's like, he's like kind of funny and kind of like irreverent, but still, terrifying. So
Yes, and he perfectly cast in this role as
yes,
well.
love that.
And he's complaining about his wife baby-proofing their house, even though they're not pregnant, because he thinks it's going to jinx their chances of getting pregnant. And suddenly they're interrupted as they get coffee, like in the break room, from Lynn from the chem department, who has like a white coat.
Okay.
And she's going to tell them that Stockholm went south. And they're dismayed, but they're not overly disappointed, even though Lynn seems to be more panicked, okay? And she tells them it is down to Japan and us. But Hadley brushes her off like, it's not the first time it's come down to the U.S. and Japan. Japan has a perfect record, and the U.S. is number 2, and we haven't had a glitch since 1998. Speaking of which, that glitch was the chem department's fault, Lynn, so if you want to maybe pull it together, we're going to be fine. And they sort of brush off her panic, and they leap out a little golf cart, and they drive down the hallways of what is like a massive facility. It's like a huge building.
Okay.
You see all these people bustling around, like maintenance men and security guards and other office drones and scientists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So a shadowy organization, the purpose of which we do not know yet. And
Okay.
Citizen's in the cart trying to put his coffee on, and Hadley stops his rant about baby proof to ask him, like, are you even listening to me? And then there's a jump scare where the title card, The Cabin in the Woods, pops up. And we have no idea who they are or how they play, what role they play in the movie. But they are our first characters we meet. We then meet the gang, as I will refer to them, our main characters. Okay. And they're like in a bustling college town. And we meet Dana, who is, like Alicia Witt, is a redhead. Because horror loves a spunky redhead.
Who doesn't?
And she's packing. She's pantsless. And she's packing stuff up in her bag for the weekend. And she finds a sketchbook. And in it, she sees like a sketch of an older man. And she sort of looks at him wistfully. And her roommate, Jules, busts in and says, oh, Professor Fuckwad. And we find out that Dana was having an affair with her college professor. And he just broke it off in an email. And Dana's like,
email?
I know. And Dana's like, I knew what I was getting into, whatever. And she turns around and she finds out that Jules has just dyed her hair blonde. So we don't know what hair color Jules normally has, but now she is a fabulous blonde. And she's kind of insecure about it, but Dana says, it looks amazing. You look fabulous. Great. And Jules rips the picture of Professor Fuckwad off of her sketchbook. And she said, we're going to burn this over the weekend. We're going to have fun. I want you to just forget about this guy. Dana's not there yet.
Also, this idiot leaving a paper trail with emails?
Oh, I mean, nowadays. Even 10 years ago, maybe, but like now.
I would say, yeah, no.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, obviously the people playing these roles are 28, 30 of their day. But I think they're supposed to be undergrads. I guess they could technically be grad students. But clearly in an inappropriate relationship. But Dana's like, I'm not ready, whatever. And Jules says, okay, well, Kurt, my boyfriend, played by Chris Hemsworth, he's coming on the weekend and he's bringing his friend Holden. And if his friend Holden is as cute as he says, you might be getting out of that swimsuit and getting under him. And Dana's like, I'm still not over this disgusting older man who took advantage of my relationship with him, the power dynamic. And Jules is like, absolutely not. She said, we have a cake and a lake, no more reading. Because Dana wants to take all of her like esoteric history textbooks. Of course. And Jules is like, absolutely not. We're going to have fun. And Kurt comes in and he throws a football into the room and it flies out the open window where it is caught by his friend Holden, who is played by Jesse Williams, who he just transferred. And also he is as cute as they say. So Dana's like, oh, okay. I didn't know what we were talking about, but I'm still not ready,
Delivering on promises.
And Kurt, Jules runs off to finish packing, and Kurt helps Dana, like, pick out the books that she actually needs in class. Like, he's already taken it. He's on, like, full academic scholarship. Like, he's very smart. And he gives the books, and he also says, you should also put on pants. Because that to me is like a Joss Whedon thing where it's like, there's no woman who is going to stand in her underwear and not realize that she's half naked when Chris Hemsworth walks in the room. Or any man, really.
Any man. Any person.
No one has to be reminded, oh, by the way, you're just standing in your underwear. She acts like, oh my God.
Underwear. Like, no, you know.
So but she's
and
supposed
if
to be
Chris
like
Hemsworth walks in, it's a whole other.
I'm diving out the window if I'm not wearing pants. I don't want him to. I need to be prepared to see him.
Yes.
But she's supposed to be like, again, like our like more naive, younger, like inexperienced protagonist.
Yes.
So they load up Kurt's dad's camper, and they are going to a cabin that his cousin bought in the woods, obviously. Okay. And so it's Dana and this guy Holden, and then Kurt and Jules, who are a couple, and then their fifth Marty arrives, and he's a huge stoner. His car is literally filled completely up with smoke. And he has like a telescoping bong that when you fold it down, it becomes a travel coffee mug, which is actually very clever.
Would love to have that. Is he the one who's like thinner, long hair?
Yes. Yeah. He's like,
Okay.
you're, wait, who's the guy from Scooby-Doo?
Fifth wheel. Oh,
He's
Shaggy.
the fifth wheel, unfortunately, Shaggy.
Yeah.
But the implication is that they've known each other since freshman year. So like they're good friends, except for Holden, who's new. But like everyone else, like they're actually good friends with Marty. Like they're, it's not quite as bad as like, oh God, I'm here with two couples. It's like I'm friends with three of them.
They're all
it's fine.
pals.
Yeah. And then we're off to Kurt's cousin's cabin to die. And on the roof of Dana and Jules's building, we see a man with an earpiece call Sitterson and Hadley and lets them know they left. He says the nest is empty. They're right on time. Immediately, as soon as they get outside, like the college town, the GPS won't work. They can't figure out what roads they're on. And Marty goes on a rant about how that's good. They shouldn't be tracked. And Jules says, oh, society is crumbling, huh, Marty? And he says,
no, society is binding, right? It's filling in the cracks with concrete. Everything's filed or recorded, blogged, right? Chips in our kids' heads so they won't get lost. Society needs to crumble. We're all just too chicken shit to let it.
Meanwhile, he's hand rolling like joint after joint, like dozens of joints for the weekend in the.
It's like, this guy's a real voice of reason.
Yes, exactly. And that is unfortunately going to be sort of the problem throughout the movie is he has some interesting ideas. No one's going to listen to him because he's
but no
totally
one cares.
stoned. Yeah. He's truly baked out of his mind. Meanwhile, back at the
for him.
shadowy facility, Sitterson and Hadley, they're in a command room, which is filled with huge screens and controls. And they're joined by a security guard named Truman, who has just joined the organization. And Hadley says, did they prepare you for what we will be doing here today? And Truman says he's been prepped. And Hadley says, being prepped is nowhere the same as being prepared. I'm warning you now. So this is Truman's first experience doing what they're about to do.
Whatever
Next up,
they're doing.
Yeah, a terrifying gas station where the gang meets it is a truly madly, deeply creepy gas station attendant named Mordecai.
Yes.
And he's
Mordecai.
like your gas station attendant. He's got like dried animal skins and weird jars and like broken furniture.
He's like dipping, as I saw in the trailer. Like he's like spitting out like just like gross saliva and tobacco.
And they ask him for directions because they can't find the road. And he's like, oh, you might be able to get up there, but getting out, that's the bigger issue. You're heading to the old Buckner place, huh? And he warns them about, you shouldn't go up there. But everyone's like, oh, this guy's a creep. And he ends up calling Jules a whore after she sasses him. And Kurt like throws cash in his face and they peel away. And as they drive on, at one point they're driving along this a beautiful CGI gorge. And they drive through like a tunnel that's in the side of the mountain. And when they do, we see a bird flying. And as it flies, it hits an invisible grid surrounding the area. And the grid sort of lights up and sparks. And we see the bird explode into flames. So there is an invisible enclosure that they are now driving into that they could not perceive. Had they seen the bird explode, maybe they would have seen it, but they didn't. So we know.
I'll already say that's when I would have turned around if I had seen that.
Exactly.
I would have been like, nope.
Oh, yeah, there's some sort of invisible grid, invisible cage that we're driving into. Well,
no.
Sadly, yeah.
No, but they didn't see.
Unfortunately. And they finally arrive at the cabin, and, it's kind of a jump from the outside. There's leaves everywhere. It's dusty, but it's nothing that 5 young, nubile bodies can't clean up and make cozy. And it's very cute, like in a 70s way inside. And when they each pick a room, Holden's room has a painting of like a group of men brutally disemboweling a huge goat and like dogs tearing its body.
I love art.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, this is gross. So he takes it off the wall, only realized there's like a two-way mirror. There's a two-way mirror between his and Dana's room.
Yes, which is in the trailer.
And Dana just sees a mirror, so she starts to undress, and Holden has a moment of like, maybe I should just, nope, I'm going to say something, and he stops her and he knocks on the door, and everyone comes in, and Marty's like, maybe they had to make their own interrogation rooms out here. Maybe this is like, what was like a police station or some olden time things.
I can't think of a thing that would require what is it, a two-way mirror or a one-way mirror? Like what is the phrase for
what is the right one? It's the one where if you look one way, it's a window. And if you look the other way, it's a mirror.
the other way, it's a mirror. Whatever that is. A focus group mirror. Like, I just can't imagine why anything short of like a government building could possibly need that.
And, Kurt jokes is like, oh, they were probably freaks and like they just wanted to watch each other fuck. So I don't want you sneaking a peek at me if there's a room in the other one,
Right.
And Holden asks Dana, do you want to switch so that like you feel weird about it? She's like, thanks, I would appreciate it. But of course, when she's in the room, she sees him take off his shirt. He's jacked. And she has that moment of like, should I watch him undress? But she says no. And she puts the painting back up and covers it with a blanket because it really is a disgusting painting. That to me would be a larger issue than the mirror. It's like, who made this?
The painting is a huge problem. And like to be in like to be in just like a like whatever, like cabin in the middle of the woods, literally, like that, like the presence of that, I'd be like, something is wrong here. Like, why would this be here in a space that is not like, oh, there's all kinds of art, including this disturbing art? Like,
yes,
that
absolutely.
would be something I'd be like, this is a red flag.
We pull back and we see Sitterson and Hadley are watching all of them on a grid of screens, revealing that there's a camera in every room and they're being monitored throughout. And Lim from the chem department arrives with an update. Jules's blood work came back, but they're going to give her rotaphase to include rohiptase to a rohiptase. They're going to give her rohiptase to increase her libido, and they also have sort of slowed her cognition down through her hair dye. So they're essentially making her a dumb, horny blonde without her knowledge.
Okay.
They're engineering her towards this end.
I see where
yes.
archetypes are now.
And slowly we will also see all of them sort of be pushed sort of towards this horror movie archetype. She just happens to be the most obvious one going blonde. Just then, Sitterson and Hadley got a call from Mordecai, the gas station attendant, who goes on this rant. He's like, the lambs have passed through the gates. Their blind eyes see nothing. Cleanse the world for the ancient ones. And then he realizes that he's on speakerphone, and Hadley, Sitterson, and Lynn are just giggling at him. So he hangs up, and he's angry about it. Okay. And back at the cabin, the gang is going swimming. It's this beautiful lake. It's incredible. And as they're being watched on the screen, everyone from the shadowy organization stops by the control room to place bets on the fate of the gang at the cabin. And Truman, because he's a new employee, is kind of disgusted by this. And he's like, first of all, does the director know you bet on this? And how are you betting on this when you're manipulating the scenario? It doesn't seem really fair to
that does actually feel even more than like, we're going to bet on like the fates of these people. Like to be like, oh, but like, this isn't fair betting. Like you're in control of it.
And they say, no. They have to choose what happens. We can't force them to do anything. We can manipulate things as much as we can, but they have to then choose. They have to choose to transgress of their own choice. If they don't, they can't be punished. And that's the way it's always been. They have to actively be a part of this. So, that's what they're going to tell Truman anyways. So back at the cabin, they're playing good old-fashioned truth or dare. And Marty, who is stoned out of his mind, dares Jules to make out with a taxidermied wolf head. Ugh. And she does it with relish. Like, she's seducing the wolf and, kissing its bare fangs in such a convincing, sexy, but, very creepy way that everyone's, kind of turned on and kind of freaked out. At the end, everyone applauds, it was great.
Great job. You nailed it.
And so finally, next, it's Dana's turn. And Kurt says, just tell her a truth. She's going to pick truth. There's no way Dana's going to pick a dare. And she's like, no, I will pick a dare. Suddenly, the cellar door swings open vertically, revealing a set of stairs into the basement. It's not like it's swung open. Literally, it pops open.
It, lifts. Okay.
And Marty's the only one, how the fuck did it happen? And Holden or whatever was like, maybe it was the wind. He's like, the wind from where?
The wind?
From the basement?
We're
how would it
inside.
Right. And Jules dares Dana to go into the basement. And Allison, I then ask you, what would you do?
What would you do?
If you were faced with this situation.
I'm not going. I'm changing it to truth. And the truth is we should get the fuck out of here. Why are...
Yes.
This is a weird place. It's not, even, before the door swung open, it's there's weird stuff here. I don't want to... I can't relax. I'm not on vacation. We're getting out of here.
Are you tired of wasting time making trips to the grocery store, waiting in checkout lines, and overpaying for groceries every week? We thought so. Luckily, there's a better way. Misfits Market takes the hassle out of grocery shopping by delivering fresh, organic produce and sustainable groceries straight to your home at prices up to 40% less than traditional grocery stores. You'll get access to exclusive weekly savings on peak season organic produce, high-quality meats and seafood, and sustainably sourced pantry staples like snacks, pasta, and grains, plus keto-friendly and gluten-free foods. Do your weekly shopping in just minutes with Misfits Market, all with no service fees, membership fees, or commitments. Become a free member today and get $15 off your first order through July 24th. Just go to misfitsmarket.com and use code GROCERY15. That's promo code GROCERY15 for $15 off your first order. Misfits Market is not available in all 50 states. For more info, visit misfitsmarket.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Todd Glass. What could I say that would make you want to give the Todd Glass Show a listen? Well, I guess you could poke around on YouTube, and if some of the stuff over there makes you laugh or my Netflix special act happy, then maybe you'll give it a listen. The only other thing I could do is make it short because it's interrupting a podcast you already love. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, things are only getting weirder because there's a bunch of weird stuff in the basement. So,
Of course there is.
So Dana creeps down with a flashlight, and it's full of junk, like paintings and knickknacks and clothes and weird artifacts, and everyone follows her down. And Marty's like, this is bizarre. Is this your cousin's stuff? And Kurt's like, there's no way he even knew this was down here. Like, he would have mentioned the basement full of insane garbage, you know?
Yeah. It's like, stay out of the basement. It's super scary.
Right, yeah. Even if the door pops open, don't go down there.
Yeah.
And so they all pick up different items. Like Kirk picks up like a conch shell and he's about to blow into it. And then Sully puts it down and he picks up a puzzle ball. And it's covered in a sort of a Hellraiser style metal strips. And then Holden opens a music box and sees a dancing ballerina. And Jules picks up a necklace and she's about to put it on. And Dana finds an old diary and she starts paging through it. And all of them have like a different item. But before any of them could like open the puzzle box or put on the necklace, Dana clears her throat and she starts reading from the journal. And it is the diary of Anna Patience Buckner from 1903. And here's what she reads.
Mama screamed most of the night. I prayed that she might find faith, but she only stopped when Papa cut her belly and stuffed the coals in. Judah told me in my dream that Matthew took him to the black room, so I know he is killed. Cutting the flesh makes him have a husband's bulge, and I do not get like that.
Marty, reasonably enough, interjects and says, can we not read this? This is not good.
I'm with Marty. I'm fully with Marty.
And everyone's like, no, like it's, whatever, man. And Dana keeps reading. She's like, in next entry, which is, I have found it in the oldest books, the way of saving our family. My good arm is hacked up and et. So I hope this will be readable, but a believer will come and speak this to our spirits, and then we will be restored, and the great pain will return. And then Dana says, and then there's a phrase in Latin. And Marty says, I'm drawing the line. Do not read the phrase in Latin.
Don't read Latin.
But then he hears a whispered voice that says, read it. And Marty is like, oh shit. And he rushes over and he knocks the book out of Dana's hand. But Kurt shoves him and he tells him to stop being a fucking baby. And that's our first, like, indication that Kurt is also becoming this, like, dumb jock stereotype. Is like, we've seen him be incredibly nice, like, and helpful, and he's very smart. And now he's like being this macho, like, alpha. Yeah, and he's like, don't be a fucking baby. And unfortunately, everyone agrees with it because, Dana's like, this isn't real, and she reads the Latin. And the Latin is, Dolor super vivo caro, dolor sublimis caro, dolor igneo animus. Unfortunately, as soon as she fucking reads it, we see the zombified bodies of the Buckner family, including Anna Buckner, who has the one arm, and Mama Buckner, who still has glowing coals in her stomach. And
belly full of coals.
And they all have rusty farm equipment, like a actual handsaw and a huge, like, cleaver. They crawl out of their graves in the yard and start coming for our gang.
Does the gang see them, or is that something we as the audience see?
Yes.
Okay, not
so
great.
we are aware that they are out and about in the woods. The gang does not know. And we cut to the control room and everyone goes, oh, because everyone had bet on what monster would appear. And maintenance is declared the winner in addition to an intern who didn't know who to bet on. And we see a giant whiteboard that Sitterson had written on. And all the different departments bet on all the different monsters that the gang could have picked in the basement unwittingly based on the item they had picked up. So...
a question. Would you say that, like, with what's going on at the company or, like, the entity that is controlling all of this, does it feel comedic? Is it scary? What is the vibe of, like, of course what's happening in like in the cabin with our gang is scary, but like is the overarching thing like, is this nefarious or is this kind of played funny?
It is comedic, but with the idea that what they are doing is real, like they are really going to try to engineer their deaths. This isn't a prank. This isn't like
okay.
You know, like this isn't like, you're going to find out it's like for a show. No, this is legitimate, but that's where all the comedy is. And I think it's supposed to be like like the dark comedy of like having a bad job or having a difficult job is like, to them, they've done this so many times and engineered the deaths of so many people that they bet on it and they like kind of treat it like, and that's why they have the character Truman, because Truman sees like all this and he sees the zombie family and he's really rattled and he says, they're like something from a nightmare. And Lynn tells him, no, there's something nightmares are from. So everything that's in our stable of monsters is a remnant of the old world, courtesy of you know who. And she sort of gestures below the building. And she tells him, don't worry, you'll eventually get used to it. And Truman said, should you get used to it?
Great question.
And Hadley is disappointed because Kurt didn't blow the conch shell. And he was really excited because it would have summoned a merman. And the merman has never been summoned and he's never seen one. And Sitterson's like, don't worry, like the Buckners have 100% clearance rate and the scenario in Japan is still uncertain. Like they have another scenario that isn't concluded. So the Buckners are a great pick because they will get the job done.
Okay.
Back at the cabin, Jules is like the horniest anyone has ever been. And she's doing a sexy, horny dance while Kurt like cheers her on. It's like, yeah, like don't tell me you wouldn't want a piece of that. And Marty's like, can we not talk about people being in pieces right now? And Holden and Marty and Dana they're still being affected, but not as much. So like, they're like, what is their deal? And Kurt and Jules go outside, of course, to Bone in the Woods.
Yep.
And Marty says, I have a theory about this. And he's like, look how Kurt and Jules are acting. Like Kurt called Holden an egghead and he called Dana a virgin as like an insult. And he's acting like this, like he even put on his Letterman's jacket, which he doesn't normally wear. And it's like, he's acting strange, and Jules is like, he calls her a celebutard, which it was 2011, I suppose. We were still saying that.
Yeah, we had some different rules.
And Dana's like, okay, what's more likely? They're drunk and you're super stoned, or someone is manipulating all of us. And Marty's like, all right, that's fair. I'm going to go to my room and read a book with pictures. So he goes to read Little Nemo. And Holden and Dana sit up on the couch, and they're talking about what the Latin phrase means, but also we're like flirting, and we know they're going to kiss. And Holden could read Latin from high school, and he says, it translates to pain survives the flesh, pain raises the flesh, pain ignites the spirit. And then they make out, of course. So out in the woods, Jules and Kurt are looking for a place to bang, and all the men in the shadowy organization have like gathered in the control room to watch them fuck. And they groan when Jules says, it's too chilly to take her top off. And Sitterson and Hadley eventually kick everyone out of the room. And they start tweaking the environment so that the pair will have sex in the woods. So they turn up the temperature.
Warming it up.
Yeah, warming it up. They start spraying a pheromone mist. When Jules says it's too dark, let's go back. A beautiful moonbeam illuminates like a bed of soft moss. So then, they start,
it's all
get to it.
There.
Yeah. And Sitterson and Hadley are like, take off your top, take off your top. And Truman's like, is it really necessary if we see your topless? And Sitterson says, well, we're not the only ones watching. You understand what's at stake. So, like, this is also part of it. It's not just their murders. It's this whole, it's a pattern that needs to be followed. It's a story that needs to be revisited. Finally, Jules takes off her shirt. She looks great, and she and Kurt get down to business. And unfortunately, because this is a horror movie after all, as soon as she closes her eyes and she's on her back, one of the zombified Buckner boys stabs her through the hand and then starts stabbing Kurt with like a giant gnarly farm knife. They end up dragging Jules off into the woods.
Turn of the century farm tools, perhaps the scariest weapons.
Because it's like they're not well maintained, but also, so when it cuts you, it's just going to be like dragging across. Like it's going to take so much longer than a sharp knife.
So rusty and so but also so
tetanus.
Sharp.
Yeah, you're going to get tetanus. They drag Jules off to the woods, and as she screams for Kurt, who has been injured, the Buckners decapitate her with a rusty saw. Back in the control room, Sitterson is praying, and he's holding a necklace with a symbol on it, and he says, "This we offer in humility and fear for the blessed peace of your eternal slumber." And both he and Hadley say, as it ever was. And Hadley goes to a cabinet and he pulls a lever, and somewhere deep below the building, a mechanism sends blood into the outline of a human, like carved into rock. So every time somebody dies from the gang, a lever will be pulled and blood fills a different, slightly a variation on the outline.
Yes. Okay.
So Marty is in his room reading, and he hears a woman's voice whispering, "I'm going to go for a walk." And he's like, wait a minute. I wasn't making this up. I'm not a puppet. I'm not going to do my puppet dance. If somebody's watching us, I'm going to go for a walk. So even though he heard it, it still affected him. So like and it was just funny. And so he goes outside and he passes Holden and Dana who are making out, and she stops him and says, you know, I've never, and then she stops herself and says, well, I don't mean never. But it's like she also is like, she was about to say I've never had sex, but she has. But it's just like she's being pushed further into this virginal.
Like, yes.
Yeah. The final girl, the protagonist, you know.
Yes.
So Marty goes outside to take a leak, and as he's peeing, we see Anna Buckner, the zombie, slowly making her way out of the forest behind him. And it's this excellent shot.
Is she the one arm?
Yes. And she's slowly making her way. Suddenly, Kurt slams into Marty and inadvertently clotheslines Anna Buckner. And they both run to the cabin and they slam the door. And Kurt tells him, Jules is gone. We have to get out of here. There are people in the woods. And it's like, we're not leaving Jules. Like, if she was attacked, like, she need us. She opens the front door only to find Matthew Buckner, who's like fucking 6'8", and of course a zombie, standing there.
It's like bad and getting worse.
He is holding Jules' decapitated head, and he throws it into Dana's arms.
No.
She drops it screaming.
If someone throws my head at you ever, drop it.
I'm fucking just spiking that thing.
Do not feel compelled to catch it. It is not our friendship is over. I'm dead.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can be friends when you're dead. I mean, but I'm going to slap it and then I'm going to drop kick it. I'm going to kick it out of the air after I knock it towards the ground. Exactly. And then knock him out.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me permission. You could do the same thing. I won't mind.
Okay. I figured that's kind of like the pact that we have.
So they're able to get the door closed before Matthew Buckner can come in, and they like barricade the door. And Marty says, oh my God, we also saw a zombie girl outside with one arm. And Dana realizes, oh shit, that's Anna Buckner. We read the book. Oh boy. Like she immediately.
We all know.
We all know what's going on here. And so Chris says, okay, we can't get to the camper because we can't go outside. We have to barricade ourselves inside, shut all the windows, and like barricade the doors and stick together. In the control room, we see Hadley send a gas through the vents. And Kurt's like, no, we should split up. And so they all split up and go to their individual rooms. And the control room locks them all inside. So Marty runs over to the window and he's trying to barricade it.
Locks the house or locks them all in their rooms?
Locks them all in their rooms. So they are all now individually trapped in their rooms.
Okay.
So Marty runs to the window to shut it. And in his panic, he knocks over a lamp. And inside he finds a video camera. So he says, oh my God, I'm on a reality TV show. My parents are going to think I'm such a burnout.
Sir.
Just then, Judah Buckner just smashes through the window and pulls him outside. And Marty's able to hit him a couple times with this huge bong, but Judah drags him off in the woods, and we just hear knife squelching and blood spraying in the air.
Oh.
And so Hadley pulls another lever, and another outline of a human body fills with blood. So we are down now to 3. Back at the cabin.
So that was Marty?
Marty.
The stoner.
Marty the stoner. Was just dragged to the woods. Okay. Back at the cabin, Dana pushes a dresser in front of her window, but the Buckners are coming in anyways, and Holden has to shatter the mirror between their rooms and sort of drag her out. And they're able to get out of the rooms, but they get into the basement, but it's a different room walled off from the room they were already in. It is the black room, the room the Buckners murdered in. And Dana's like, cool. Okay, well, this is where they killed those people, so this is where he's going to kill us. Holden's like, no, we just have to find a door. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to be fine. Just then, a giant fucking hook shoots down from the ceiling, and a Buckner is dropping in and stabs it through Holden's back. Dana is able to stab the Buckner enough to get him to stop. I mean, he's still alive. He's a zombie. Not alive, but he's still...
But, like, he's slowed down.
He cannot move. He's essentially pinned to the wall, right? And she's able to get Holden away from him. And luckily, it doesn't seem like these are kind of zombies that if they bite you, you turn into a zombie. It doesn't seem to be that kind
They're
of deal.
Just kind of like...
at least don't have to worry about that.
They're to fuck shit up. Okay.
Yes. They just want to kill.
Yes.
Just then, Kurt is able to get down there, and they escape out of the root cellar door. But Kurt tells them, I saw them get Marty. And so obviously Dana's devastated. But luckily they all pile into the camper and they peel out of there. Meanwhile, we see over in Japan.
Good. Let's chicken in Japan.
Yes, check it in Japan, and their scenario is different. They make a point at a certain point that every culture has different archetypes. So in Japan, we're in an elementary school, and it's a girls' school, and they're being terrorized by a ghost, but they're able to mollify her, and they take her angry spirit and they put her into the body of a frog. And one girl holds a frog up, and all the other students hold hands and sing happily, and there were no fatalities. Meanwhile, Citizen and Hadley are cursing them out through the screen, and they yell at Lynn. It's like, why? We sprayed Marty's pot. Why is he any more malleable? Why is Marty able to, like, pick up on what's going on? Like, you were supposed to be manipulating him, too. And she's like, we did, I'm telling you. And they realize they're the last country that can successfully conclude their scenario. Every other country has failed. And Lynn says, if the ancients rise, and they cut her off, they're like, it's not going to happen. We are going to...
Wait, so successfully means everyone dies or everyone survives?
Everyone dies. Okay. Because 2 people have already died. So in order for this to succeed, they all of them will die.
They need to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
and Japan is like... Okay, got it.
This is... Yeah, the Japan's a failed scenario because not only did they not
they found
kill
a way
5
around
people,
dying. Right.
Nobody died. So everyone else... we see sort of flashes around the globe, you know... A city was attacked by a giant gorilla. There's all these different scenarios, horror movie scenarios, that the people were able to overcome, and they were able to survive. So in order to do the exact scenario they need to have happen to, again, mollify the ancients, which we don't know enough about yet,
right?
They have to do this. Because they can't just show up and just shoot all of them. You know, they have to die in a horror movie way.
In a horror movie scenario. Okay.
Just then, Hadley and Citizen realized that the tunnel out of the woods, like past the gorge, was supposed to have a cave-in and trap them inside that grid. And there was a short circuit in the wire, so the tunnel is clear. So the camper is essentially about to escape. And luckily, Citizen's able to, like, hotwire the mechanism, and the cave collapses, and the gang has to throw the camper in reverse, and they barely make it out in time. So now they are trapped on the forest side of a gigantic ravine. There's no bridge. They have no climbing equipment, but they do have Kurt's motocross bike because he's cool as hell. Not only is he smart and handsome and nice, but he's like a climber. He's like, oh, I have equipment, but it's my room, you know. And luckily he does motocross, so he's like, I could do it. I do big jumps all the time. It's not even that far. I can do it, and I want you to lock yourself in the camper and just hunker down. I'm gonna bring back like helicopters and tanks and shit. And those things are going to pay for Jules. And they say, Holden says, don't hold back. And Kurt laughs and he says, I never do. And then Kurt leaps over the gorge on his bike, only to slam into that invisible grid, which we see light up as he tumbles all the way down. Kurt is dead.
Yeah, I mean, you can't outlive driving your bike right into an invisible grid and tumbling to the bottom of a gulch.
Yeah, he's not getting out of there. And so Dana, of course, is like, oh my God, Marty was right this whole time. Like, there are puppeteers. Somebody is trapping us here. Somebody is manipulating them and picking us off one by one. And, of course, we see Hadley pull a lever, and the outline of a warrior fills with blood. So we know that Kurt has died. So Holden and Dana, they drive back towards the cabin. And Holden is like, there has to be another road. Dana says no. Holden says, well, then we'll just drive into the woods. And we'll go as far as we can, and we'll walk. Like, we just have to put space between us and the zombies. Like, there's no other option.
You've clearly seen that, like, there is a force field. Like,
yes. And that's what Dana says, like, any situation we are going to try to put ourselves in, they are going to manipulate it.
Right.
But Holden calms her down, and he's like, I believe that we will be able to outsmart this. Unfortunately, a knife is suddenly jammed through the back of his neck. One of the Buckners had sneaked down to the camper, had been there the whole time, stabs Holden. So the camper flies off the road and into the lake. Dana is screaming, and she barely escapes. Luckily, she's able to get out.
To be the last one surviving this would be traumatic.
And she makes it to the dock. In the control room, they're celebrating. They're cracking beers, you know, and which confuses Truman. He's like, well, why are we celebrating if Dana is still alive? And they say, oh, no, the virgin death is optional, you know, which is like the final girl trope. Like, it's actually fine if she lives.
Final girl, yeah.
Because the point of her is not her death. The point of her is her pain and getting to watch her trauma and watch her be brutalized.
Yes.
That's what we're doing this for. And Hadley has this moment where he's really did feel for her, and like she has such heart. And then like suddenly everyone else in the organization is coming on. He goes, "Tequila is my lady," and then they just start making margs and they're eating chips and everyone's partying because they have succeeded. Meanwhile, on the screen, we see Dana's on the dock. She's get attacked by a Buckner. So she's being kicked, having her ass kicked on this dock, being brutalized. Still, what's going on while everyone at the organization parties
is just celebrating.
Yeah, and Citizen, she sort of chides the electronics department for the tunnel snafu. And they tell him that was not our fault. There was a power glitch that was redirected from upstairs. That was like a systems problem. And he's like, how is that possible? And suddenly a red phone starts ringing and everybody goes silent. And Hadley goes over to answer the phone, and he finds out that one of the teens is still alive besides Dana. So my question to you, Allison, is who will survive?
Who will survive?
So we know Dana is still alive. One of the other college students is alive. And also, yes, do you think Citizen, Hadley, Truman, Lynn, do you think they're going to make it out too?
Well, I think Marty is still alive, just from piecing together the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is that the two of them survive. I think that there are some deaths in the office. I think that there are some. I don't know who I think maybe the drones that Hadley and Citizen die, but Truman survives.
Okay, great.
I'll say, yeah, I'm going to go with that as an optimistic guess.
Great guesses. Okay. So Dana is still getting her shit rocked by this massive hillbilly zombie, Matthew Bruckner.
Great.
Only to be rescued by Marty, who is able to essentially like jam his bong into the Buckner's like killing chain. I don't even know. He was just
Marijuana
whipping a
saves
chain.
lives.
And he was able to whip the chain out of his hand, and then he grabs Dana, and they're sprinting back to the cabin. And he tells her the only way we're gonna be able to escape is we have to crawl back into the Bruckner's graves where they came out of. And she's like, I don't want to have to do that. But we see Anna Bruckner is right behind them. So she's like, fuck. So they have to go back in where the zombies came out. Yeah. And they find themselves where Marty has been hiding this whole time. It looks like a maintenance hallway. And there is like a still alive but disemboweled and dismembered one of the zombies. And Marty's like, yeah, I had to dismember him with a trowel. I didn't know what to do.
Ooh.
And he has a fuse box open, an electrical panel. And he's like, I've been fiddling and I've been trying to gain access, and look at this. And he does something and it opens a floor in the door. And he says, look, it's an elevator. I think if we go inside, I can get in there and I can get it to go down. And Dana says, do we want to go down? And Marty tells her, well, we don't really have a lot of other options. So
he's right.
Yeah. They get in the fucking elevator. Unfortunately, a lot of the zombie mush, like its still moving arm, falls in after them. So they're like, as they descend, we see they're inside a massive glass grid made up of individual containers. And in every container is a different horror movie monster.
Interesting.
So they stop next to one. It is a werewolf. It slams against the glass and screams at them. There's another one with like a screaming ghost, like corpse. So it's like a ghost that's sort of like a wisp, and it sort of I'm trying to think what it looks like. The Frightening or something. Like it's like ephemeral. And then a ballerina girl with a face made up of lamprey teeth.
Oh, she sounds chill.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's if Holden had let the ballerina,
box.
the music box play all the way through. Am I hearing a Hellraiser ripoff with buzzsaw blades in his skull named Fornicus, the Lord of Pain?
No.
And that's when Dana realizes, because she remembered Kurt had the puzzle ball. She's like, oh my God, we chose. We were put in that basement, so we chose what would come and kill us.
Zombies.
And Marty's like, yeah, that's true. And I don't know what to do with that, you know. And as we pull back, we see all these monsters, like a homicidal robot and a clown and like some like stranger style like masked killers. Yeah. Like regular serial killers. A giant weird bat, you know.
Oh God.
Back in the control room, everyone in the organization is freaking out. They have to find them and they have to kill Marty at least.
So do they know that they're there, or do they just know that they're missing?
They're able to locate them. I guess when he like hacked into the elevator, they're able to figure that out. So they know exactly what they are.
Okay.
They send the elevator down to the floor, and when they get there, there's a security guy with a gun. And they say, do not kill Dana first, or else it'll be all for nothing. We have to kill Marty.
Oh, okay.
You know, just to follow the pattern.
It has to be the rules. Yeah.
Exactly. There's still rules. And so the elevator opens, and a security forces guy puts a gun on them. And Dana's like, why are you trying to kill us? And he's like, shut up. This has nothing to do with you. Like, it's way too complicated to explain. Unfortunately, the severed hand, or for him, fortunately for Marty and Dana, the severed zombie arm from the dismembered Bruckner grabs the security forces guy leg, and they're able to disarm him and knock him out in the elevator. So now they're like in the elevator bay of this totally white, sterile organization. And they hear the director's voice come on the PA, and the director is Sigourney Weaver.
Okay. Love to see it.
And she tells them,
you've seen horrible things, but they are nothing compared to what came before. What lies below. It's our task to placate the Ancient Ones, as it's yours to be offered up to them. Forgive us, and let us get it over with.
So they're basically saying, give yourselves up to be sacrificed.
Because it's going to, okay.
Because the alternative is worse. So just then, like, a squad of, like, 20 armed security forces guys show up, and Marty and Dana seek refuge in, like, the control booth of the elevators, and they run in there and they hide. And this is, I've never designed something like this, but I just got to think you shouldn't have this kind of button. Because once they're inside, Dana says, Army of Nightmares, huh? Let's get this party started. And she hits a button, again, that should not exist, that releases all of the nightmare cubes into the elevator. That shouldn't be, you should have to break a glass
Why
at
is
least.
that? Don't make that.
There's no reason you would ever need that, but luckily it's there for them. Because all of the elevators ding, like a second later, a werewolf comes out, a giant snake, a bunch of regular zombies, like other zombies come out.
Also, like, after having seen all of them on the journey down, like, that's so much worse because you know some of what's coming, but also not everything.
So they're being massacred. Like, these guys have guns, but, like, a lot of these things don't seem like they're killable. Like, you can't kill a zombie.
Right.
You know, like, maybe you can kill a giant snake, but they don't do a good job of it.
No.
They are torn apart just in time for the new squad of armed forces to show up. They find the room, it's just filled with bodies and blood sprayed all the way up the walls. And as they watch, the elevators ding again, and another group of monsters come out. So it's like ghosts and like stranger-style killers with masks and a crazy clown and what looks like a raptor, and then just like a motherfucker who can crawl on the ceiling. I don't know what his deal is, but you know it's not good.
Get him the fuck out of there.
And Marty and Dana would be safe for now. Unfortunately, a giant bat like smashes the glass of the booth and starts chasing them.
Good,
so they
bat
have to,
is there?
So now they're out in the building too. So there is total mayhem. The monsters are now gone from the elevator bay. They're like they're trying to kill. All these things want to kill. Of course, is what we are understanding. So they're attacking people in the building. People are trying to barricade themselves into the door. The control room, obviously, they've like locked this like big bank vault type door. So it's just like the four that have been there this whole time. People, at one point, a woman shoots herself in the head because she doesn't want to have to deal with what's about to happen. Like, everyone is freaking out.
I mean,
people are being
she's
tortured.
not wrong. She's one after my own heart.
People are being eaten. People are being, like, horrible shit. And Dana and Marty are about to be beset by monsters when the bat smashes a hole in the wall, and they're able to get inside the walls, like the maintenance, I don't know what you call that, but the maintenance area, and they're just running through there, which at least has less people and less monsters in it. And
it's a numbers game.
Yeah, and the last monster finally arrives in the elevator, and it's Anna Bruckner, who was able to make it back inside via the elevator.
Great.
And unfortunately, eventually the monsters are able to get into the control room. They get through the bank vault door, and they attack Truman, and they're tearing him apart. So he detonates a grenade, and he kills himself, and he kills like 4 of the monsters. But the blast knocks Hadley across the room, and he lies there, and he finally gets to meet the one monster he always wanted to see, which is the merman. Who is, it's like this disgusting,
I'm sure.
It looks like a porpoise with like a human mouth, like a giant grinning human mouth, and long dark hair, like human hair.
Ew, why?
And he just tears into Hadley's body, and blood sprays out of his blowhole. And it was sort of like,
great. Wow.
Yeah. And Hadley goes, "Come on!" And then, of course, he has died. He has died immediately.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Sitterson is able to like override the system, and he escapes into a hatch, and Lynn is following him. Of course, she is then yanked away into the sky by a giant tentacle. So
oh, good. Yeah.
yeah, I guess like a giant, like a Cthulhu type monster or a giant octopus.
I don't like it at all.
But as he's running down inside the walls, he runs into Dana, and she inadvertently stabs him. So he just runs into her knife. But before he dies, he tells Dana to kill Marty. And he says, you have to kill him, or else things are going to get even worse. And Dana, for the first time, is like, maybe I should kill Marty. And Marty gives Dana...
What's worse, though?
Well, that's a great question. And things are about to go from bad to worse. You think this is bad now. We're going to find out the stakes are even worse than we had known before.
How could things get worse? A tentacle killed somebody from the sky.
Absolutely. But they were able to get a gun from this first security forces guy that got grabbed by the zombie arm. So now Dana has a gun, which would be the merciful way to kill Marty if she decides to do that. Because now she's like, oh, if that's what I have to do, then maybe I should do it. They are walking through the hallways, and they find a flight of steps, and they descend into like an antechamber with like high stone walls, and it has the outline of the 5 archetypes on the wall. And on the floor is a symbol that we saw in Sitterson's necklace that he was holding when he was praying. And they look over a platform they're standing on, and they see like rumbling and like moaning below. And that's when they realize, oh, we're part of like a ritual sacrifice, aren't we?
Oh.
And Marty's like, just get a dagger and some robes. Like, why do they have to do all this? Like, if they were going to sacrifice us, like what the fuck? Yeah. Just then the director, again, shows up. I love when a villain shows up to explain themselves. Luckily, the director shows up, Sigourney Weaver. And she tells them, again, it's different in different cultures. That's why Japan, it was all kids. But, like, it here, like, the ritual has to be done in a particular order, in a particular way. And at least in America, the people that have to die are the whore, the athlete, the scholar, the fool, and then the virgin. And Dana's like, I'm not even a virgin, but we'll take, and the director says, we'll take what we can get. You know, it's modern times.
Yeah, it's hard to find a virgin.
And the director says, if we fail, they rise. And there's 8 minutes till sunrise. So Marty has to die before then. Or not only everyone on the planet will die, but everyone on the planet, plus you guys, so including Marty, will die. And she says to Marty, you could die with them or you could die for them. And Dana raises her gun to the back of Marty's head. And she says to him, like, Marty, the whole world. And Marty's basically like, okay, well, if this is the way the world works, then maybe it should end. And he turns to face her, and Dana says, I'm sorry. And Marty says, so am I. And the reason he's apologizing is because he doesn't tell her that a werewolf's about to attack her from behind. So the werewolf grabs Dana and starts tearing into her.
Yes.
Marty's able to grab the gun. He shoots the werewolf, and then the director starts grappling with him for the gun. Dana's incapacitated. And she sees Anna Bruckner enter the chat and walk in the room. And right as the director is about to get the gun away from Marty and kill him, I guess, ostensibly to see if that would work, Anna Bruckner just swings an axe into the back of the director's head. And Marty pushes them both off the platform into this roiling cauldron beneath them.
Okay.
And Marty goes to sit next to Dana, who realizes, you know, I don't even think Kurt has a cousin, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, I don't, like, who knows how far back this planning went.
Right. Yes.
How long have they been manipulating them? How long have we been the chosen 5?
Yes.
And Marty says, how are you doing? And she says, I'm going away. So Dana is dying anyways.
Okay.
And Dana apologizes for thinking about shooting him. She's like, I probably wouldn't have done it. And he says, it's okay. I'm sorry I let you get attacked by a werewolf, and also that I'm ending the world. And they light up a spliff, and Dana says, humanity, maybe it's time to give someone else a change. And they're like, man, but if there are these like crazy ancient evil gods, like it would have been cool to see them at least. And as the building starts to shake and crumble around them, we see a gigantic hand thrust up from underneath the cabin and sort of reach for the camera. And that's the end, Allison.
Whoa, okay.
So needless to say, there's not going to be a sequel.
So the movie ends with the world being destroyed.
Absolutely.
As we're supposed to believe. Wow. Well, they really wrap it all up there. I guess I do, like, as you said, like, I'm like, why them? Like, why was this gang the chosen 5 in America? Like, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. It's like, they're close enough to the archetypes that, like, you could, kind of, like, nudge them into these roles.
The director does say it's not just because you're young, but that is part of it.
Okay.
So, Allison, what, if any, fatal mistakes do you think our characters made in this movie?
Fatal mistakes.
I feel like this is the rare movie that there was nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Even in like moments where it's like, oh, we should just turn around. Like they would have done so, like it feels like they had a plan for everything, and thus like there was no real escape.
Yeah, and I guess like for the people who worked in the organization, like, yes, they were killing people and that's awful, but also they were correct in thinking that if they didn't, the world would end. You know, so it's like maybe the world should end, but also that included in that is billions of people horribly dying as these ancient gods unleash their wrath onto humanity for doing something that like is awful to begin with. Yeah.
Wow. Not what I was expecting this movie to be about.
Yeah. I mean, how does it compare to your original idea? Is it just sort of...
I thought it was like a movie that was just like a basic, like a monster or a murderer is stalking a bunch of hot people in a cabin in the woods, and like more along the lines of Scream, where like there is acknowledgement of the rules of horror, but not beyond the actual control of human beings.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it exists in a somewhat normal world.
It exists in reality as opposed to this, I mean, hopefully fake reality.
And then my question is, which archetype do you think you would be? And which of the monsters, whether I mention them or maybe you're just remembering from a different movie, would you want to kill you in this scenario?
Oh, I mean, gender-wise, it's tough because, like, I'm definitely, like, a jock.
Oh, I think you can mix it up. It's 2021. You know, the gods can't be that picky. Again, she wasn't a real virgin. I think you definitely be the female athlete.
But, like, I feel like that's kind of where I think, like, my personal history aligns, though I'm probably more the stoner who's like, we shouldn't be here. Let's get out of here in practice. So I would think those. And I would say of the monsters, I mean, I want a quick, I say this all the time, I would like a quick death. Whatever my death is, I want it to be quick. I want to go quickly and painlessly. So whatever will bring the quickest and most painless death.
Right,
which,
you don't
again,
want to be tortured or eaten or anything like that.
I want somebody to just shoot me in the head. Like a murderer to shoot me in the head.
There's one monster I didn't mention because I had forgotten it. But there's a unicorn. And we see the unicorn spear a man through the chest. And while that would still be painful, that seemed like everyone else was being like chewed and clawed.
Yeah, I don't want to be
awful.
maimed. I want to be just a quick, and I feel like also it'd be cool to see a unicorn before you die.
Exactly. Yeah, the last thing you see is a unicorn murdering you. That's kind of fun.
And then it stabs you through the heart and you die instantly because there's no like long-term like suffering with that. So I would say that.
I would,
what's your answer?
I almost feel like, what do you think I would be? Because I guess it's like, I guess sort of the egghead, but I'm not really that smart. But I am that kind of smart where it's like, you weren't smart enough to get out of the situation. Right. And I don't really smoke. I mean, I smoke occasionally, but I
feel like you embody the, you know, in the same way that like we're both like, when we talk about how we would physically, like we would realistically behave in all of these, like we have the same, like, I'm getting out of there. I'm not going to do, like, I'm not doing this. Like, and I feel like that's kind of the sentiment of the like stoner, like,
yes, you're absolutely right. And we would, it does add up if we were inadvertently causing the end of the world. There's also one more thing I forgot. This is a very layered movie, so I forgive
This movie has a lot going on. There's a lot in the house, in the cabin.
But they say at one point that the reason that they had sprayed Marty's weed with like forget me juice, I don't even know what some chemical to make him more malleable. But they realized that he had another stash. He's such a stoner that he had even more weed that they didn't know about. So the weed itself was actually inoculating him to the effects in the way that the other characters were not being inoculated.
I feel like that's us with like sneaking drinks.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, if gin prevented this from happening, we'd be fine.
They'd be like, oh, we spiked the wine that you guys are all like having. And I'd be like, but I've been like drinking a side cocktail in the kitchen every time I get up to go to the bathroom.
Right, this isn't water with ice. This is just gin.
Yeah, this is just gin
and soda. I'll say stoner just to give myself that cred. And then the monsters, boy,
there's
you're
so
right.
many.
I guess Fornicus, Lord of Pain, I feel like, he's the closest I can get to Hellraiser. And he seems like he would kill you pretty quick. It didn't seem like he
Sure.
took you anywhere. But then I guess I don't want to be chopped
Okay.
up. I'm going to go with a huge snake.
Yeah. I would probably be like, if I saw a huge giant snake, I would probably be like, have a terror heart attack
Yes.
on site.
It would be on site for me, that
On
snake.
site
I would
of the
die
snake.
on site. And then finally, where would you place the cabin in the woods on our spooky scale, Allison?
A spooky scale.
I mean, I always think a meta movie is a little scarier than a straight movie. So I want to say like a 7.
Ooh, okay. I feel like the exact opposite. I feel like a meta movie always makes it less scary, more fun. I love this movie. I watch it. This is like for me, like if I'm doing something else, like I'm cleaning, I'll put it on because I think it's so fun. I'm gonna say a 4. I do think they did a good job. No, I'll give it higher than that because the zombies really are scary. I'm gonna say a 6 because I generally find the zombies upsetting. I find their backstory upsetting. I find the idea of a zombie family or like
their backstory is pretty
obsessed.
awful.
Yeah. And I'll say a 6. And then all the meta stuff makes it less scary, but the zombies themselves are 9 or a 10. And then the meta stuff is like a 3 or the 4. So I think to balance it out.
Yeah, it's a 6. All right.
Yeah, that feels right. Well, guys, we hope you
Wow,
enjoyed
that was
this.
Cabin in the Woods.
I know.
We finally did it.
Definitely a much requested film.
Yes.
And luckily, not one you had seen, unlike many of our other much requested films. Not many, but I mean like the 3 that are people ask. But also that's why you saw them because you had peer pressure to be like,
because
I have to see Scream. Everyone has seen Scream.
Everyone is talking about Scream. Everyone always talks about The Shining. Like these are the movies I've seen. So I'm glad we got to do this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ruin Podcast. And please, any suggestions, any movie recommendations,
Movies, questions.
we love you very much. And thank you for listening to the podcast.
Yes. And rate, review, and subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts. That helps us. Leave us a review. 5 stars. I think this was a 5-star episode, as all of them are. So
Absolutely. If I do say
do
so
all those
myself.
things. I would have to say another 5-star episode.
And they've all somehow 5s across the board, this whole podcast.
It's crazy.
And until next week, guys, please.
We always ask, and we're going to continue to.
keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky.
Bye.
Bye. Ruined is a Radio Point production with executive producers Alex Bach, Sabrina Fonfetter, and Houston Snyder. Recorded and edited by Kat Iosa.